Okay, and welcome again to this series. Okay, if you notice, our probabilistic modeling series is quite a lot, isn't it? Okay, no worries. This is our final series, our final video for this probabilistic modeling. Okay. Mm. Now, moving forward, okay, now we go to part three of Markov chain. Now we are okay, by the end of the day, I really hope you already go through and really understand my series part 1 and part 2. Okay, only then you can transfer to this part 3. Okay, because by right you already your matrix transition is already in your fingertips. Your equilibrium point is also in your fingertips. Okay, so this is just the way moving forward. Okay, let's say I have a situation in this case, a situation where by the end of the day my transition metric is a little bit have a little bit of a pattern. Okay, so how to move forward? Okay. So now we look at this example. If let's say you have four different states, this one is our account receivable example. Okay, we have four different state. Okay, if let's say you give loan, for example, to certain people, and then you want to gauge or investigate whether your investment, you giving money to people, will you give uh, uh, how much is the probability of you might losing money? People didn't give you back whatever they loan from you. Okay, that one is normal, isn't it? Okay, we want to know that a little bit, for example. So if let's say by the end of the day we are able to differentiate four different states. Okay, the first one, bill settled, paid, no problem. State two, bad debt. All right, bad debt meaning that we assume we will not get back the money. Okay, meaning that the debt is already overdue more than 3 months. Okay, state three, overdue less than 1 month, meaning that we want to see for those people who fall under this category, overdue less than 1 month, in a long run, do you think they will fall? How many percentage of them will fall into bad debt, which is okay, bye bye, my money go away, or how many percentage I will get back my money paid all bills in full. Okay, and then step four, if you notice the overdue is between 1 to 3 months. Okay, we just assume that, right? Okay, meaning that your paid settle, bad debt problematic, overdue less than 1 month, overdue between 1 to 3 months. Between these two states, between state 3 and state 4, if you notice, these are the normally these are the situation where we want to cater. Okay, when we want to cater, meaning that we want to see, or maybe we can give if let's say for example in state 4, by the end of the day we know the possibility, the probability for them will go into bad debt is so high, for example. Okay, then only we can start to put the countermeasure. For example, countermeasure meaning that preempt measure. Okay, meaning that we we take an active role. An active role meaning that we know that this particular guy will fall into bad debt by the end of the day. So we don't want, of course we don't want it to become a bad debt, isn't it? So we want to pull them back into the system. So if let's say we already identify this particular risk factor, go into state 4, before it becomes to the bad debt, we want to pull them back into going to state 1. So there are certain ways, for example, that's when the preventive measures being coming in. That is what the policymakers, for example, cracking their brain, okay, on how would it possible to help this particular situation, because the preventive measures may not be the same, right, for different states. If let's say this particular guy will go into state 2, the probability they go into state 2 is like 90% of the time, meaning that The preventive measure is completely different. That one we don't call a preventive measure anymore. Okay, that one we call like a repercussion, for example, or how we're going to realign again their restructure their debt. For example, that is why sometimes you heard this kind of initiatives in the news, okay, and you start to notice, oh, these initiatives cater for which category, this that initiative cater for what category, okay. So that is why we do it. And then maybe you may ask, okay, why don't we just put uh, why we don't just restructure all the debt and do all the necessary valuation similarly for state 2 for the rest of the debtor, okay. We cannot do that, right? Because as usual, we know that our resources is not that much, okay. We cannot hire as many debt collector, for example, okay. And you have to understand that, because if let's say we hire debt collector and we hire, for example, a gangster to get the money back, okay, but how can you do that? Because if let's say people don't have money and then you hire a gangster, what the worst that can be done? Unless if you are coming from an along situation. Not that I want you to go into this bad business, okay. But the idea is that along, okay, they put force into their action, okay, but that one is completely different. Gangsterism just wins in a short term. It does not grow people into a very productive citizen, okay. But when we talk about making people know their full realize their full capability, know how they should handle debts, for example, to make do with what possible for them, for example, how they are able to acquire some money, um, for them to have a investment, for example, in a real property, okay. So that is not on the way we approach that. It is completely different than the way Along work. Okay, if you're not familiar with a long term meaning that is like a loan shark. Okay, so that one, as I keep on reminding people, please do not let yourself into a position of getting some loan from the loan shark, okay, because that one is very very difficult for you to move away from that. If you find yourself in a difficult situation, especially on a monetary basis, whatever it is, you can always go back to first step first. You should talk to your bank provider, okay, your loan provider, banking institution or something like that. Talk to them, okay. There are arrangement that is able to help you, okay, because as usual, it is not a um it is not a like what I mean is, it is not productive for you to shy away from this. If let's say you have problem, face it, okay. You should not be it is not that once you in a bad position, okay, that position, what I mean, all right. So it is not productive if you go out from the system and you try to run away from that, okay. It does not solve your problem, okay. If let's say you cannot find solution talking to your bank provider, okay, you should go, at least you should go talk to the AKPK, okay, because they already being deal with, they have lots of experience dealing with difficult problems, and they are able to talk with your bank provider and become the mediator and try to find solution, give a win-win situation for both parties, and at the same time they will give you good counseling. Okay, counseling is a place for you to help you move forward in life and try not to make bad decision in the future. Okay, whatever it is, face your music. Okay, do not run away from it. Okay, because by the end of the day, you're not only does not give justice to yourself, but you will also affect your those close to you. Okay, so I don't think that is good in a long run. Okay, coming back uh, to our lesson. Okay, so how to move about? Okay, if let's say blah 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 all these thing, by the end of the day, this is your transition metric. Okay, you can pause a little bit my presentation here and look carefully about the transition metric that we have over here. Okay, so if you notice over here, the state to and from, all right, the state to and from, you can see there's a little bit of a pattern, right? For example, if this month paid, next month paid one. Okay, this month paid, next month bad debt zero. Okay, so you refer back to my previous video, okay, for you to make sense of it. You cannot, this is not an independent video. You cannot watch this and assume that you are able to understand this without watching the previous videos. Okay, this video is more on how to move forward to see if I can see patterns in my transition matrix. Okay, let's say if I transform my probability into the transition matrix. Okay, now you can see over here, this is my transition matrix. Okay, you can see, oh, see, I kind of like having a pattern, right? So my pattern, for example, oh, this one is 1 0 0 1. This one is like another pattern, 0 0 0 1. Okay, so if let's say I try to segmentize my probability transition matrix into this category, can you see that your pattern emerge quite pronouncedly? Right. Okay, it emerged quite pronouncedly. It's very different compared to our previous examples, right? Our previous example is a straightforward example whereby there is no such thing as category. But this one, you can see clearly. Oh, isn't this like an identity matrix? Okay, isn't this like a null matrix, right? Oh, the only valuation which look like the previous example is uh, uh, uh on my lower part, on my bottom lower part left side, bottom lower part right side. Okay, so if I'm able to dissect this into few category, what can I do with this information? Okay, now what can I do? I try to extract them out from the system, from my matrix, from my transition matrix, meaning that I identify my identity matrix as I, my null matrix as just zero. Okay, remember zero is maybe you cannot find this. Zero is in a bold position, right? Because we are dealing with zero matrix. Okay, it's not just zero. And then this is my A, because this is now my other matrix which has value that you don't see any pattern involved in it. And this is my other matrix. Just let it be B. Okay. So once I have these four different matrices, I see how to move about. Okay, how to move about. Okay. So we try to start to see, oh, if I have this problem, can I find a fundamental matrix? Okay. Maybe you may say, oh, what is now a fundamental matrix? Okay. Let me ask you to just follow first. the train of thoughts here, and then by the end of the day, once you finalize, by the end of the day, once you in the end of the video, you can see the sense of why we are having a different fundamental matrix and why we are doing the inverse and so on, and then you dive back to the reasonings. Okay, because by doing dissecting this, we are able to answer the final question at the end of it. Okay, so if let's say you are dealing with uncertainty, uh, remember at this particular juncture, what you need to do is you try to make sense on the calculation part. Okay, by the end of this video, then you're going to go back to making sense why we are doing the fundamental matrix again. Okay, so now we start. We can get our fundamental matrix by using this calculation. Okay, this is not necessarily just B. Okay, what it means is that you utilize the matrix at the lower bottom right side. Okay, so you have identity matrix minus B. And then this is the important part. Okay, you actually want the fundamental matrix that is has the inverse valuation for your matrix inside here. Okay, so that is what you want actually. Okay, so if you notice over here, it's just the calculation for your I identity matrix minus your B, the matrix at the bottom right side. Okay, and then once you have this, you now find F inverse. F inverse. You remember F inverse? What is this? This is just the inverse valuation. Remember? Okay, your in case you forgot, I put over here. If let's say you have, oh, I already put over there. Okay, if you have A, B, C, D. Okay, your inverse is just 1 over AD minus BC, and then you shift the position here. Oh, sorry, DA, and then you put negative over here, isn't it? Oh, sorry, negative C. Okay, like that. Okay. Okay, like this. Okay, so your R is just this, right? Okay, so that's what you do right now. So if you notice, you do it slowly. Your valuation, your R, your we call that what we call that, R is, oh God, I forgot what we call that. But AD minus BC. Okay, so this is the valuation for your R, and then you put all this one is the value for your D. This is your A. This is your negative B, and this is your negative C. In this case, this is your R earlier, right? Okay, but they didn't put it here. They put your R straight away inside your valuation over here. And we are dealing with decimals, so doesn't matter. It looks so not nice. Okay, that's why you can just put this inside and calculate this, represent your F into just a decimal points. So by the end of the day, you have 1.38, 0.34, 0.52, and 1.38. Okay, if you notice, your F is a fundamental matrix. Okay, do not forget that. Fundamental matrix is not the same as your transition matrix. I need to recap. Okay, if let's say you have transition matrix, okay, you always have to remember your transition matrix. We are dealing with a probability, meaning that if you notice when you have a row, okay, the row you sum the row, all the items in the row, you will have one, right? You sum the second row, all them together, you will have one. Okay, something like that. But this one, no. Okay, now we are talking about fundamental matrix is completely different than your transition matrix. Okay, if you get confused, you need to uh, 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 re 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 rewatch, okay, this video, a little bit back. Okay, that's why if you notice now you have 1.38, for example. 1.38 is no, and 1.38 plus 0.34 is not equal to 1, because we are not talking about transition matrix anymore. Okay, I want you to remember that. Okay, so now then we proceed to FA. Okay. Now, if you notice, we start to introduce the absorbing states. Okay. So FA in this sense is here. FA means that this is the representing. Oh, sorry. FA representing the probability that an amount in one of non-absorbing state will end up in one of the absorbing state. What does it means actually? Okay, so it means if you talk about absorbing state, meaning that you can see over here. Okay, I need to recap back at the previous one. Okay, absorbing state is a situation like this and like this. Okay, you can see over here, even though we call this one is identity matrix and in this zero a matrix of or zero, null matrix and so on. But by the end of the day, you can see over here, it just has a value of it's either 1 or 0. But in the sense of A and B, you have a valuation where you have the values, the numbers, right? Okay, so we want to see if we start with certain amount, for example, we put into the system, will my amount go, what is the probability that my amount will be dragged into one of the observing state? Observing state, as I mentioned earlier, in this case, will someone that I give money to, will they move away and go to the paid customer, for example, or will they flip and go to the non-paid customer? Okay, non-paid customer meaning that debt, bad debt. Okay, so that is our question actually. All right. So how to calculate just that? Okay. This is our end game. Okay, this is our end game. Okay, we have this M. Okay, what is M? M is the amount. Amount. Okay, amount. For example, in this case, let's say we are talking about money. Everyone likes money, right? Okay, if let's say we talk about money. Okay, so if we assume there is 2,000 in the less than 1 month category. Okay, less than 1 month category meaning that, remember your state 3. Okay, and 5,000 in the 1 to 3 month category. Okay, meaning that, remember that one is your state 4. All right. So you change your amount in the state version. Okay, this is your state 3, this is your state 4. Okay, so you use this particular value, okay, the one that you have, 2,000 and 5,000. Okay, and then you put them inside your fundamental matrix with your A just now. The fundamental matrix with your A just now over here, this one is just the probability over here, right? Okay, if you get confused, here, your FA. Your FA is your valuation here. All right, okay, digest it a little bit. Okay, now I transfer my FA into here. Okay, I transfer my FA into here. I just introduce my M, which is just the amount of my transition period. Not transition period. My amount in the state. Okay, in the given state. Okay, state whereby I have less than 1 month category, and another state where I have my valuation of 1 to 3 months category. Okay, so once I put this into valuation, meaning that actually I have 7,000, right? I have 7,000 put together, 2,000 and 5,000. Okay, so what's interesting is once you calculate this, you have this value. Okay, you have this value. What does this value tell us? Okay, what does this value tell us? Okay, it tells us that from your total 7,000, if let's say you give money 7,000 money, 7,000 of your money, and you give away to those who would like to borrow your money, and you park 2,000 money to people who are in the category of less than one month, and 5,000 you put in to give to people in a category of 1 to 3 months category. Okay, by the end of the day, okay, you can expect that of your 7,000 money, your 7,000 dollar, 6,240 will eventually be paid off. And you can expect you should lose your 7,060 dollar. This will end up as a bad debt. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Okay, so meaning that if you already okay, I give previous the first one. Okay, this one. If you are able, which is not easy, if you are able, if you are able to construct this value, all this particular value, if you are able to construct this particular value early on, okay, how you construct, maybe you can use the mode of historical data, or maybe you can use the mode of what questionnaire or whatever. Okay, as long as the by the end of the day you are able to construct the probability, then from the probability you can simplify your probability, use this particular notation up until you get this FA. That's why I said you go back to reason out why you need fundamental metrics, because you want to create the situation where you are able to find your FA. When once you need to find or construct your FA, you cannot construct your FA unless you get your F. Your F is your fundamental matrix. Okay, so once you construct this FA, you are able to know if you are in a position to give loan to people. If you are a bank, for example, you need to know, right? Okay, you need to know you cannot by right have 100% recollection debt, right? Okay, you have to tie back with your insurance, right? Okay, so meaning that you need to know actually how much will I get back and how much will I need to put debt into a bad debt. Once you know this, then you can organize your strategy. Meaning that from this one, you know by right, you are able to roll this particular money and invest somewhere else. Okay, and then the investment will acquire you more money, and then will top up into your original problem. Okay, so that it will top up with your bad debt, because if you don't do any calculation whatsoever, uh it does not make sense, right? You don't give money to people assuming that, yeah, okay. In a nutshell, actually the idea of giving money to people is to help other peoples to grow, blah blah blah. Okay, but by the end of the day, you as a loaner, it does not make sense if you didn't get benefit from your investment, isn't it? Okay. If you are so kind-hearted, then that's fine. That's another story. But we are talking about capitalism world, and we are talking about a more objective assessment. Okay, so we expect something in return, okay, with all the invested money that we give to other people. Okay, so that is something that you need to strategize early on if you want to sustain your business cycle. All right, so I think that's about it. um Finally we comes to the end of the long probabilistic modeling. Okay, I hope you get benefit from it, and I hope you understand why this probabilistic modeling is quite extensive, and you can see why it is quite interesting. It is a very interesting subject for you to explore more. Okay, so I leave you with these additional resources. It's very interesting. Knowledge and understanding on this, very clear information, and especially on the second link, that one is very interactive, so you can understand a little bit more about the period. Okay, how the period move from one state to another state. What does it mean by having many different different period, and what does it mean by um, having the period go into the equilibrium state, and what does it mean by absorbing your states, push your state, come back to another state. As what we mentioned in the previous example, okay, under debt bad and good debt. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the lesson up until right now. Stay tuned for the next lesson, and all the best with your acquiring knowledge.